Family, it's your favorite queer radio personality, Anna Deshawn, with our queer news for today. Now, I want to make you a promise. We will continue to bring you the latest in queer news, culture, and politics. So, if you're digging our intersectional take on the weekly, consider joining the Q Crew. The Q Crew is our monthly membership program we started to help grow this podcast. You get weekly emails from me and exclusive interviews with LGBTQ influencers from across the country. With your support, we can bring you more stories celebrating our lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and comrade communities. This month, our exclusive interview for the Q Crew is with Glenise. Glenise is the founder of VDOM, and VDOM is the latest sex tech innovation made for and by our community. As a Black queer woman, Glenise was joking with friends about an easier way to strap up with her boo. What if we went from flaccid to erect so we could get it in anytime? Well, she settled in on the idea and decided to create it. We talk about her journey and her recent second place win in Pharrell's Black Ambition Prize contest, where she walked away with $250K. Now, if you want to watch this exclusive interview, you got to join the Q Crew. As always, the link is in the show notes. Family, Queer News is now a weekly podcast. My goal is to build the team up so we can properly execute a daily pod. But until then, a new episode will drop every Monday at 7 a.m. Chicago time. So if you enjoy what you hear, please leave us a review. It would be the best holiday gift. And thank you for being on the Queer News journey with us. Now for the news. Britney Griner was wrongfully detained for 294 days, nearly 10 months, and now she's back on U.S. soil. Let's talk all about it. Let's go.
You are now tuned in to higher frequencies. We do this frequently. Turn your radio station to E3 for that decency. Listen to great music and the latest movement. Safe listening for anyone that's tuned in. Who you waking up to? Anna Deshawn, QCrew and friends. It's that real talk. Online radio with the spins. You caught up in traffic, frustrated. Just check in with E3 to shift your vibrations and get elevated. That's queer radio done right. Choose to be yourself. That's the only way to live life, and that's how it's done here. Just know y'all tuned in to the greatest. Ain't no competition. We ain't worried about the other stations. Check.
Over the last 9 months, y'all have been so privy to one of the darkest moments of my life. And so today I'm just standing here overwhelmed with emotions, but the most important emotion that I have right now is just sincere gratitude for President Biden and his entire administration. Today my family is whole, but as you all are aware, there's so many other families who are not whole. And so BG's not here to say this, but I will gladly speak on her behalf and say that BG and I will remain committed to the work of getting every American home, including Paul, whose family is in our hearts today as we celebrate BG being home. We do understand that there are still people out here who are enduring what I endured the last 9 months of missing tremendously their loved ones. So thank you everybody for your support. And today it's just a happy day for me and my family. So I'm gonna smile right now.
And Cherelle, we were smiling right along with you. In some cases, smiling and crying at the same time. What a Thursday morning it was. Family, my phone started blowing up around 6:50 in the morning here in Chicago. I mean, I love y'all so much. Y'all wanted to make sure I knew Britney was coming home. And it's funny because this time I didn't know. I had decided to sleep in and I was on a call at the time, so I wasn't in the typical routine. And if you're trying to figure out what time I typically get up, I mean, I'm an early riser. I'm at my best in the morning, typically 5:30 a.m.-ish on my best days. So to hear from y'all Thursday morning made me so full. I've been waiting to make the Britney is on her way home video for so long. It just felt like it was never gonna come. And so often, we don't have the happy ending. So often we are left with tragedy, GoFundMes, and unsolved cases. But this time is different. This time, she came home to her wife. Yes.
Are you lost in your podcast journey? If so, you found the right podcast. My name is DJ Tracy Treese, and I'm a podcast producer. In partnership with theCUBE, I'm bringing you the Lost and Found for podcasters. I've worked behind the scenes on some of your favorite podcasts, and I'll be bringing you some great conversations with podcast industry experts to help you find your way through your podcast journey. There's so much information out there, and the industry is rapidly changing. No need to feel lost. You found the right podcast. Subscribe to the Lost and Found for podcasters now. Everywhere that you listen to podcasts, if you prefer your podcast in video, click the link in the description to subscribe to this podcast on YouTube.
Yes. Now, all this started back in February 17th to be exact, at the Moscow airport, right? Let's revisit the timeline together. February 17th, she was detained at the Moscow airport when their customs team reported finding vape cartridges filled with THC. We came to find out that there was 0.7 grams of THC in the cannabis oil. Yes, less than 1 gram. And for some context, here in Chicago, you can legally have 5 grams of cannabis concentrate on your person. In LA, it's 8 grams. In New York, it's 24 grams. So you can see why I emphasize the amount, because there is no way she had a, quote, intent to sell endeavor in mind. Either way, she was in Russia. Russia was heading into an unprovoked war. She was detained. 2 months later, May 3rd, she was classified as wrongfully detained by the U.S. government. 3 months later, August 4th, BG is found guilty and sentenced to 9 years in a Russian prison and a $16,000 fine. Now, we know they gave her a harsh sentence to put additional pressure on the U.S. government. All we have to do is look at the Aubrey Lorber case. She was 19 years old. She is a white woman, and she was found guilty with 19 grams of THC in 2019. 19 grams, okay, y'all? 19 times plus a little bit of what BG had. She served approximately 2 months in jail, 2 months, and received a $235 fine. The glaring differences in these sentences really are just laughable. And if you can't see how Britney was being used as a political pawn after this comparison, I really just cannot help you. I mean, the double standard can't be more obvious. Russia knew what they wanted, and they had the leverage to get it. 2 months later, October 25th, BG's appeal is denied. And then on November 2nd, her lawyers came to visit. The next day, the U.S. Embassy officials came to visit. And then on November 4th, she was moved to a penal colony without anyone's knowledge. It wasn't until November 8th, her lawyers found out she was moved when they went to go for their weekly visit. On November 17th, her lawyers announced the penal colony BG was assigned to. They had finally been notified. It was the female penal colony IK2 in the Russian region of Mordovia. On December the 8th, though, what a day. The U.S. told the world that Britney Griner was on her way home. What a day that was, y'all. Throughout this process, we've learned a lot, right? Some didn't know how bad the pay equity was in women's sports. Britney made $1.5 million to play in Russia, where on the other hand, she makes $228,000 to play for the Phoenix Mercury here in this country. We learned about the Russian oligarchs, right? The oligarchs are a collection of the richest Russian businessmen. A Russian oligarch owns the women's team in Russia, and for some context, his estimated net worth, according to Forbes, is $5.4 billion. So it's known that if you're playing for women's basketball in Russia, you are protected. Supposedly. You are treated like royalty, which goes far beyond the pay they receive. I have included a story in the show notes if you want to read more about the oligarchs, their wealth, and power. Now, we signed the initial petition to keep the story in the news cycle. We watched the WNBA honor her throughout the entire season with her number on every court and the players wearing We Are BG gear. We watched the ratings and awareness of how dope the WNBA is grow so much. My point? We've seen and learned a lot over the last 10 months. Former UN ambassador and former governor of New Mexico, Bill Richardson, and was key in securing Britney's return home, had this to say.
I think President Putin stepped in and he said, 1 for 1, and that's it. I don't think President Putin wanted to give President Biden a victory. Well, almost for sure, it's going to be another prisoner, a Russian prisoner in an American jail. The Russians don't do these for free, and they're tough negotiators.
Which leads me to this point around the criticisms around the swap. There is no even exchange here. We don't have anyone from Russia in our custody that committed a crime as minor as what Britney did. None. Putin and the Kremlin saw an opportunity with detaining Britney, and giving her such a harsh sentence was always the point. They've wanted Victor Bout for years, and they simply saw an opportunity in BG. This is why we classified her as a political prisoner and as wrongfully detained. Now today, we know that BG is back on U.S. soil. We've seen the videos and the pictures of the swap of her getting on and off the plane. The most noticeable change is her hair. Her lawyers said it was very cold in there in the penal colony, and every time she washed her hair, she got cold and would get chills. Reports say that her locks would turn into icicles after a shower, so she decided just to cut them off. Let me just say the shortcut looks good on her too, okay? She landed at the U.S. Army's Joint Base in San Antonio, Texas, and was then taken to the Brooke Army Medical Center. We know that she met her wife, Cherelle, when she arrived. I can only imagine the pure joy of their embrace. She's expected to undergo an extensive health evaluation and be screened for things like anemia, electrolyte imbalances, infections, and any injuries sustained while in Russian custody. At Brooke Army Medical Center, she will also receive any mental health treatment she needs, as well as the reintegration program. Now, the reintegration program is given to any American military or civilian who was captured or wrongfully detained like BG. This reintegration program includes things like post-isolation support activities with the goal of reintroducing society, reintroducing their families while providing decompression time. It also gives the military an opportunity to conserve any intelligence they may have been able to gather to aid in the prosecution of these criminal organizations, and in this case, the Russian government. They will want to find out what happened to BG during her incarceration, such as, was there any physical violence? Was there any torture? Was there psychological torture or manipulation? Once she goes through all these steps, she can then go home or choose to stay as long as she wants. I'd imagine in these moments, you'll know when you're ready. We can only assume her next stop will be to see her parents, family, and close friends. As always, we will continue to follow BG's journey back home and celebrate with her along the way. Welcome home, BG. Now, y'all know we always close the podcast with a word because Anna's always got a word, but I also want to share some more good news, okay? So the Respect for Marriage Act passed the House in a 258 to 169 to 1 vote. Yes, one Republican just voted present. Like, why? And 39 Republicans joined all the Democrats in supporting it. Now it's off to the president's desk, and hopefully it gets signed this week. Also, Gerard Carmichael will host the 80th annual Golden Globes. I loved his comedy special on Netflix, Carmichael, where he came out and shared his experiences with the world in such a bold and beautiful way. If you have not seen it, treat yourself, okay? Now let's close with a word about hope as we celebrate these wins. The LGBTQ ally and former Archbishop Desmond Tutu had this to say: "Hope is being able to see that there is light despite all of the darkness." The darkness that was BG's wrongful detainment in Russia. The darkness that is Republican hate against our community. But let me be the one to remind all of us that darkness has nothing on the light. That hate has nothing on love. And whatever is troubling your spirit, you have everything you need inside of you to move through it. Tap into the hope. You just need a little mustard seed. Till next week, family. Peace. If you enjoyed what you hear, rate and review us inside your favorite podcasting app. This podcast is a production of E3 Radio, your #1 queer radio station playing queer music and reporting on queer news in high rotation.